afternoon now.
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon,
Good
Essie.
afternoon. Hi, Kira. How are you?
I am good. Long time no see.
It's been a long time indeed.
Yes. How are you doing?
COVID.
Yes, this COVID thing has just put so much space in between us, in general. How are you doing? You're sounding a little low for me though.
A little bit low.
Yes, you sound a little far away from your speaker or your mic, I should say.
Okay, all right. I'm about what? 20 inches from the speaker. I'm not sure. I'll turn this up a bit. Is that better?
It's a little better.
Oh, that's our internet. Stays with us. Fingers crossed.
And toes. Okay, so you're not sounding very perfect, so I'm going to be listening carefully. But I was asking you how it is that you are doing now.
I'm doing pretty well. I so far have been COVID free. I think that's the first thing everybody talks about these days, and thanks be to God, I am.
Excellent, and I hope you stay that way. I'm also so I give thanks, and
No,
and the same way with our members here in the Zoom chat, and to those of you who are on is it Facebook that we're on today, and Instagram, wherever you are on social media, present time or in future time via the recording. I hope you're COVID free and you stay that way as well. So let's just jump into the conversation. It's always come to get your and doing another, always that. Esme, I'm not hearing you at all now. What is going on? Ah, what team? Esme? You're, I'm not hearing you, but I can read your lips. I'm reading your lips. All right. So Esme is having a little bit of microphone trouble. Going for the earphones again to see if that will work. And we were doing so well before we went live, but it's just technology.
Okay, I'm hearing you now.
I am hearing you as well.
I think we're having internet issues because it's buffering.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
All right. So I was asking you of all the forays that I mentioned in the introduction about you, you have been in the business of growing human capital, and now you ventured into growing things from the earth. So I just wanted you to tell us how is it that started?
Well, I think the one I love the most, to be very honest, is actually farming and teaching. Of all the things that I've done, are you hearing me clearly?
I'm hearing you, not clearly, but I'm hearing you.
Okay. So of all the things I've done, I would say first and foremost, my first love has to do with education slash farming. It's hard to choose between the two, so I'm going to put them side by side. Um, why farming is a big deal for me is that I love watching things grow, which is similar to education, where once you're able to help someone learn, you're helping them to grow. So growth is a big thing for me, which is why even in terms of a title that I use, I tend to use Chief Growth Officer more so than any other title because growth is a big deal for me. My love with agriculture really started from when I was a child. I enjoyed going with my father to do anything at all on our farm. And in Jamaica, we don't say farm. We say you go ground with your father, right? That is you going to the field with your father. So on a Saturday morning, especially, I'd be going with him when I was very young to cut bananas or dig yam or tend to the cows that we do have. And it is from really there that, I fell in love with the dirt. I like playing in the dirt. I like, watching things grow. The funny thing is that I don't like worms and I don't like lizards. So for someone who is very into the outdoor kind of life, bits of it I really don't love. So it started out really with that love for agriculture and watching things grow. And also, when you're able to cut a hand of bananas and, give away to a neighbor, that's something that struck me from very early, that is what rural life is all about, and the love that we have for our people. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal for me. So that's really where it started.
Okay. So when did Synergy Foods, when did you actually not Synergy Foods?
Well, everything Synergy came out of, I think I need to tell you a little bit about my journey. So I started in teaching. I'm an educator by training, and I have taught for, is it about 12 years at the high school level, and I still lecture even now up to the university level. So I'm at Mona School of Business, but I left education proper and went into corporate. And after Digicel, or while I was at Digicel, is when I started my company, because I saw an opportunity while working at Digicel to work with training people and branding people. So before branding and personal branding became what it is today, I was branding persons at Digicel. And after leaving Digicel, I did a stint at NCB and then went into business with my girlfriends. The business model works, the friendships kind of didn't work, persons migrated. And then I said to myself, let me just restart my business. And my first company was Creative Energy. I was very much in love with the word energy, because energy is from everything inside out. And in restarting, I said, Ethne, go back to your roots, go back to the original stuff that you used to do. And I said to myself, all right, okay. So I have energy. And I started with the first letter of the alphabet. I put A in front of energy. That didn't work. B, C, and I went right through the alphabet and came to Z. And I said, all right, you're out of letters now. So that's it. So Zinergy it became. So it was Zinergy. And when I started Zinergy, it was really about the education side of me. Um, but I was always wanting to go back to agriculture. And being in the country at the time and coming into Kingston, going back in and out, I said, something, I'm going to start. That decision to start in agriculture came out of a conversation where I said to a friend, I want to start a farm. And I was looking at St. Elizabeth at the time, and I said, is there any land around here that I can get to lease or to purchase eventually? And a friend gave me 10 acres and said, start with that. I remember the day when I stood there looking at Sosa bush, all bush. And I said, oh, Jesus, what have I started? Because I didn't start with the land that my parents have. I went out there on my own. Lease, actually, it was given to me free of cost to say, I bet you're not going to do well with it. And I'm like, yeah, just watch me. So I started by doing the clearing of the land and started with cassava and put in about 5 acres of cassava, which we started selling to Red Stripe. Following that, I expanded and I got into Scotch bonnet pepper, which we then started selling to Grace Kennedy. And that went on for a couple of years. And then I shifted and came back into Manchester and went into full yam production, which is what I do now with my father, as well as livestock.
So you have yam, your focus now is on yam
Focus
and on livestock.
Livestock, yes.
Okay, so how many years now have you been on this trajectory?
That has now been about 3 years, just about.
Oh,
3 years,
3 years.
yes.
Okay. And what is this vision that you have for this venture, this side of business that you're doing?
Well, in terms of vision, it's into agribusiness and processing. I'll tell you why. I'm from Manchester, and in the middle of Manchester, we do not have, this is between Spalding and Christiana, into the Craighead area, going over into Trelawney. We do not have the kind of processing facility that I believe farmers need. And one of the things that I want to start there is to really getting into some kind of processing where we're able to employ far more persons and to really sort of put a different perspective to what Manchester has to offer.
So the vision is to develop the agribusiness in the parish of Manchester.
Right.
Okay, I guess it. I guess it. And so far, how has it been going? I mean, in these 3 years, if you can see that things are still relatively young. How has even like COVID impacted you, if it has?
Well, COVID has given quite a bit of opportunity because we were actually just selling to exporters. I decided very early not to take everything on. So I was fine just doing the production part of it. So we would just sell to an exporter. The opportunity is there because we've seen that a lot of the farmers, let's take the issues coming out in the news, where persons are planting all at the same time, then we're ending up with glut, and that is an issue. So when you look at yam production, I'm even considering that maybe, yes, yam production is great, but that's a 9 month crop. And I'm seeing where we have a greater issue now with food security, with nutrition security. So in talking with farmers in the area, I have persons who are saying to me, Ethne, would you consider vegetable instead of yam? And that's one of the opportunities that I'm looking at. When you look at how our families are feeding themselves at this point in time, yes, the starch is great, but we have quite a bit of need for vegetables and to create a system where we're not all planting at the same time. Because you'll see where we have glut, then scarcity, then glut. And that's the cycle that we've been going through, which is telling me that something is clearly missing from our agriculture pipeline.
I know I'm going to have to go there because I know of your involvement in advocacy and so on. This is a problem. It's been a problem for years. This lack of, I would say, an ability uh, to be able to determine what makes business sense to invest in at a given time. Because that's really what you're saying about ending up having glut and having scarcity. It's speaking to a broader problem of lack of information. What is informing the decisions to go in? What is your perspective on this particular problem in terms of the cause and possible solution?
Well, to answer you, Kira, it's going to probably take me out of agriculture. Because yes, I'm involved in advocacy, but it would be agri advocacy, if you want to call it that, to create a new word. You know, what is needed is the sit down, the conversation, the analysis, then action. In Jamaica, we talk a lot, and then the action does not follow. The action that is required is a rebuilding of the agriculture pipeline. You can't just shut everything down, sit and fix it, and then implement. People die in between, people go hungry, you know. But what is required with this new digital age that we're stepping into, the digitization of the agriculture sector is extremely important. We've seen where steps have been made by the current administration to move things forward. What I am concerned about is that some of that moving forward does not include the micro and small farmers the way it should. So there's a lot of talk, and it seems as though there's a lot of help for SMEs in farming, but the hand holding is not there. There are spaces that people are falling in between, let's say the micro farmer with only an acre. And where we really need to get to is full mechanization of the sector. Not full, about 80%. mechanization. And yet we are using our flat, arable lands for housing. And I know your follow-up question is going to be at some point, ethnic, that is now political. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it has to be, right? But we cannot keep using the flatlands to build houses when, if we're dreaming of mechanized agriculture, where you can know, as a farmer can know, bring in a tractor, bring in all the equipment he needs, you can't do it on hillside. And it also means that even on the hillsides, we need to start looking at what else can we plant and how can we plant it.
All right. So there are a lot of things that you raised, and some some of them are outside of the scope of your purview as an entrepreneur, and more in the realm of pushing for policy change and other types of back office or back end interventions. Um, so there is a need, I would say, for information that could inform the people in the primary production level of, okay, the timing, it shouldn't be this random, it shouldn't be this difficult for us. We have rather there to figure out, okay, what it is that we're supposed to be producing as a country, and then coordinating that. But since we don't really want to get into that, and this is about entrepreneurship, I want to ask you if you are focusing or looking at this particular problem and identifying or seeking to solve it in any way, because it is an opportunity as well. Every problem that exists can sometimes create an opportunity depending on who is looking at it. So I want to know if you have any ideas, any thoughts on how it is that whether you or other entrepreneurial minded persons could begin to solve this issue. And you did the agri-processing leader, agribusiness. So yeah,
I agree. The solution is there, just as how we have the problem. And in terms of a solution, we do need more processing, um, I guess, entities.
yeah,
Grace Kennedy does a fabulous job, but Grace Kennedy is one company. We do need also smaller processes. I think sometimes as an entrepreneur, when we come up with any idea, we see what a large company is doing, and then we aim to be that large company. We have to grow in stages. So, one, small farmers at this point in time, we need an agency, we need buyers, we need persons who are actually going to be able to connect the producers to markets. So, we need buyers in the middle. If we do need to get to a point where the farmer does what he does best, he farms, and then he is able to sell his produce to the appropriate buyer, who might even help to negotiate some of the contracts that the buyer would want to be a part of. So what is required is exactly what I'm coming up with, which is this exchange and helping the farmer to focus on what he needs to do, sell his produce. And when that produce, we need to now look at the value added, because just growing yam is not enough anymore. It's not enough just growing the yam and eating the yam as it is. What are the products that can come out of that? And this is where a JBDC has been phenomenal over the years, where a lot of us as small entrepreneurs, we have an idea, and then you're able to help us to get to the value added stage. The other bit of it is creating that pipeline, or if we treat it like a cycle instead of a pipeline, so that, yes, you mentioned RADA. RADA does need to support the farmers better than they're doing. And I know I can easily get a phone call after this from RADA, from the CEO of RADA, to say, Ethnic, what are we not doing? You hear it every night on the news. We hear it every night on the news. And it cannot be that RADA says that they're doing a great job, and yet the farmers are complaining. So something clearly is not working. And the support that the farmers need is technical It's technical support, yes, but that's not the only thing. We know that in Jamaica, we don't necessarily work well in groups, but the way of the future is cooperatives. So where I sit, and this is why I said I might end up coming out of the dirt. I won't be able to go out there and plant as much as I want to anymore, because all of what I'm talking about here speaks to the need for advocacy and support of the farming sector, and also showing farmers that these are the crops that we're good at. This is the soil type that we have, and making sure that we're planting commensurate to the soil type where we live. We have lots of different programs. There's one phenomenal program that I'm getting involved in, which is Foods, Trees That Feed. I think that's a program. I remember hearing about it through a UN Women webinar and connection. And case in point, they have ackee trees that people just drop an ackee seed and it grows. Why not plant a couple of ackee trees in the back of your yard? And then we have an agency that persons can sell those ackees to. Ebony Park, for example, in Clarendon, does quite a bit of canning. Yeah. But then a farmer who is over in Manchester or over in Westmoreland says to me, Ethnic, how do I make that connection? There needs to be somebody standing in the gap.
It sounds like you're identifying where your business can go.
I've been
That,
looking at this one.
that is what I'm hearing. Okay, so Ethne, as we both have given the listeners and viewers and a heads up to already, is that you've been in business for quite some time. Um, Comparing your experience in the growing of people versus the growing of produce from the earth, would you say there are any distinct differences that pop up by way of your the process, the challenges? Is there anything that you would have said jumped out to you as new in terms of a challenge going into an agricultural based business versus more of a consulting training one?
Well, I'll tell you, agriculture, my trees don't talk back to me. Even my animals that are there, when they talk back, different kind of experience than when you're working with people. And people have thoughts and they say, listen, if what you're suggesting makes no sense. I said, okay, fine. But a tree doesn't talk back to me the same way. So that in and of itself is a whole basket of difference right there. Going into the future, I had a conversation recently. I was a speaker for the CXC launch of their way forward. And there is a huge opportunity right now for education technology. With what COVID has leveled, right? There's a big opportunity for education technology. And there's a program that was recently just advertised. I was selected for the program actually with the US Embassy, I believe, that's going to be looking at education tech companies. I think about 30 companies in the region in Jamaica have been selected for that. On the other side of agriculture, in terms of the way forward, one, production, quality of production. Two, the resilience and security around that production. And I'm not just talking the issue of crime and thieves and that sort of thing. So, people are encouraging persons to go into goat production, but then you have your goats out there at night and somebody comes and takes them. Same thing too with all your livestock, really. And the same thing is with the peanut farmer as well as the coffee farmer. So we have a crime issue. And if we can't solve the crime issue, agriculture is always going to be affected. Resilience too in terms of climate and climate change. Where last November, that rain that we had for about almost 4 or 5 weeks, following that rain, I had farmers in Manchester who said to me, Miss Miller, everything washed away, everything gone. We now need to start promoting a different type of farming, not in-field farming, but looking at greenhouses, which we know is expensive. But looking at aquaponics, hydroponics, all of those which are being mentioned. I think Minister Green has been talking about it in the last 2 weeks. But then making it within the reach of a small farmer. So a woman who has her children going to school, and not school is not in the living room, but a woman who has her kids educating in her living room and yet she can go out to the back of her yard and have her aquaponics or hydroponics setup done, and there are different price ranges for those. That is what Ministry of Agriculture needs to be helping us with and helping small farmers with. When you look at the financing of that, yes, we just heard that there is financing, but I think it's group financing. Um, and what happens when I lose my crops? Can insurance help with that? Those are some of the questions. That's what the future looks like. So in encouraging a 20-year-old who is sitting at home probably doing nothing and says, yeah, you can go into farming, or even better, my favorite topic, women in agriculture, right? So know that we actually homeschooling our kids, if you want to call it that. Have your children at home, you can still take care of your field, but how do you manage that, and how do you have that conversation with our young people? How do you show them what the prospects look like? How much money can I earn? What's the return on my investment? And actually being able to show that information before I go out there and plant one seed, or buy a goat. That's the conversation that is required.
Okay. Um, so far along your entrepreneurial journey, Ethne, what would you say has been the highest point for you?
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, Kira, that's a tough question. It's a good question. Hmm. The high point of my entrepreneurial journey so far has been, you see, because my career is in three parts. Agriculture is one piece, training and education is one piece, but work with gender is the other part of my life. So the high point of my entrepreneurial journey, starting my company, yes, I had a great vision of my company hiring 200, 300 people. I shifted that vision because at one point I realized I'm really an entrepreneur and not a business person. A business person wants to do the same thing every day over and over and over. I'm excited by creation and creating stuff, even selling that idea, giving it away, and then moving to something else. So, the high point would have been my company, but then being able to do the work I do in gender with UN Women and the traveling through the US State Department program, ending up at the White House, I would say has been the high point of that journey for me.
Uh, for the for you, what would success look like for your agricultural venture?
Success would be having my processing business set up in Manchester where I can help hundreds of farmers, women farmers in particular, doing the advocacy work and coaching and counseling of farmers, how best to optimize their businesses, how can women really just revel in the dignity that should come with being a woman farmer and managing your business and managing your family, and being able to sit down on a Saturday evening or whichever evening and you can drink a cup of coffee or tea. You understand? If you want something stronger, you drink a red stripe, right? But you can sit on a Saturday evening, you're tired, but you feel good and are not worried about who going to tear down my business and the crime that's going to cause me to wake up Sunday morning wondering when my goat them gone. That I think if I'm able to achieve that, then I've done what I was sent here to do.
Nice, nice. As you said that, another question came to mind, and I was wondering, have you experienced one of those them teeth all on the goat them kind of moments? Like, have you ever had what's your low what's the low point that you've had that really challenged you?
The low point that challenged me was waking up one morning, and this actually happened in Kingston, so it wasn't with the farming.
Mm,
And there was a thief in my bedroom. So I've had that crime experience. Low point in agriculture. Low point in
or
agriculture.
even in your other businesses, just as an entrepreneur, and I know gender is critical when I don't talk to as many female yet. It's improving, but I'm speaking to a lot more female entrepreneurs on this program now. But there are some nuances that affect women in business. So even just from your overall entrepreneurial journey, have you had a low point? Have you had that a devastating point that really challenged you, and how did you deal with it?
I think my first low point. There have been a couple that you go through, and when you're going through it, you don't even see it as a low point. Sometimes it's afterwards when you really sit and process. Um, there's the thought that women don't get along, and sometimes women we tear at each other and we don't support each other. I've had great support, but I think a low point in business had to do with a partnership that did not go well. And the learning from it was, something you can't be that trusting. And recognizing that there are some persons out there who they don't intend to help you. They're really there to tear you down. And I've had that experience both with a female partner and a male partner. And the first time that happened to me, great lesson. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do business alone. That was the first time it happened. And I took away from that the business model worked, the friendships were better served not in a partnership, but let's just be friends, but we won't work together. So the lesson from that was that going forward, I would never allow someone else to own a part of my business. Then later on, then there's equity financing and all the other things that Sandra Glasgow and others will tell us about. That you can have those kind of partnerships, and they do work. I then had someone who targeted me, came to work with me as an employee, and then tried to steal my business. And that was a hell of a challenge, you know. But coming out of that, it has made me realize that it's not that you don't go back into it, because I will still look at partnerships and see if they can work. But it has made me smarter. It has made me a lot more discerning. The advice that I then give to entrepreneurs is to make sure that you do a thorough investigation of people before you decide that you're going to partner with them. And when bad things happen, don't go with it. You have to wake up the next day and find a way out. So with the goat story, it has happened where the goat disappeared. And what we then did was actually you secure the area a whole lot better. You put in security cameras if you can and on your property. I shifted from goats though and went into pigs. I haven't had anybody steal my pigs so far. Still have my cows and those are okay. But we never had a lot of theft with produce. I've not had that.
That's good. A lot of people have the concern about partnerships, and how do you either shift from that perspective of I'm gonna do everything on my own because I just can't trust people to all right, if I really want to give my vision the best opportunity to become the the and have the impact that I would like it to have, because it is said that anything great requires the input of not just you but significant other minds to it. So how does a entrepreneur or a budding entrepreneur um, create that kind of shift in the way they might have a fear or something on that? Is it that they could put anything? What would you tell them to do, or what kind of recommendation would you make?
Well, the first thing I'd recommend is to join the Women Entrepreneurs Network of the Caribbean.
Hopefully they're a woman. Okay.
If they're women, and I say that because it has been a phenomenal experience for the last 7 years, being in a group of women where we share so much. And I'll tell you, Kira, we share a whole lot. We have about 145 women in a WhatsApp group. and we share from time to time. It's not about the good morning greetings and stuff. We try to limit that as much as possible, but there are times when people will drop a motivational piece in the group that just hits the spot for a lot of persons. Since last year, March 10, when COVID hit Jamaica officially, that group has provided a lot of information about how to handle your staff, if you have to go into furlough, how to terminate persons if you have to, what are the HR responsibilities associated with that, taxation issues and how to handle your business if you're having to close your business or how to pivot your business. We talk to each other about violence against women as business women, and what we did was we created a support program. So Olainka Jacobs Bonnet and her team, who is the vice president for that, she manages that entire program. We talk about, raising our children or having children and the challenge of educating our children at home now, while trying to manage a business. So finding a business association, I think very early in my career, I remember hearing, I mentioned Sandra Glasgow a lot because she has been phenomenal in the kind of leadership in the space that a couple of us have received. And she said, find a business association that works. Val Rivera is another person who has said that. Be very discerning. There are associations out there that you think support SMEs. They say they support SMEs, but what kind of support? Um, so we talked through a lot of stuff. We talked through opportunities for each other's businesses. When COVID hit, one person reached out, Ethnic, I have an order coming in from Miami for sanitizer and I need alcohol. And I picked up a phone and we made some calls to see if we could find the alcohol for that particular person. No, that is some real-time sourcing that happens in the organization. We have a bakery, Newtown Bakery, that's owned by Shalane Lee. She promotes her stuff all the time, and we buy and sell from each other. So something as simple as spa services. I go nowhere else but Old Harbor to Shades of Elegance, who is one of your success stories as well. That's Trisha, But this is how we support each other. So
So
making sure,
basically, sorry, Ethne. So
yeah,
you're basically saying that you could consider um an alliance or a membership in an association to get some kinds of support instead of getting into an actual legal partnership, because the value of that, if you enter into a really strong association or grouping, can be very valuable and impactful. Got
that's
it. Got it. And that speaks to something that we always put forward and promote to our clients as well, is that your network is very, very critical to how fast and how the quality of your network, as in how much it is that you are actually going to be able to earn, and the value of your business is going to be contingent on the quality of the network that you are able to build for yourself. Excellent. Um, we have about 15 minutes left. I want to maximize. I see one question coming in from the chat, and if anybody else out there is interested in posing a question to Ethne, I encourage you to do it soon. I'll filter it for her. But I wanted to ask you, Ethne, since you've been in business, what has been one of the hardest things that you have had to work at
tolerance.
personally?
Tolerance.
Tolerance. What does that mean?
Tolerance and patience. I move fast and my mind moves fast, and there are times when I have to learn to slow down. And that includes also just processing ideas. I personally believe I could have been a whole lot more successful if I had only focused on agriculture or only focused on gender or only focused on training. Um, but I made a decision that I would not leave gender behind because I'm female first before I am a business person. And I made a decision that education and teaching is the core of who I am. And that's the first professional decision I made it was made for me. I didn't even make the decision to go into teaching.
So
But
you're saying let me just figure out something. You're saying that you had to learn how to tolerate your multi-passionate self?
yes, 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 yes.
Because that's what I'm hearing in there. That boy, I couldn't settle on doing any one thing. There are different things that you're passionate about, and you really, by nature, have a quick mind and also have a lot of energy and want to see all of these things come to fruition. You have a problem with people keeping up with you?
I do. I do. And I think my brother was the first person who said that to me. He said, Ethne, I was actually paying someone else a compliment. And I said, boy, that girl, they move fast enough. And there are days when I struggle to keep up. And he turned and looked at me in amazement. And he said,
Wow.
you, Bernard, we struggle to keep up with you. And I'm like, what about? Because there are times when I don't think of myself at all. I don't. That's that's on my list of things to do, and to start thinking more about who I am and what I want. I think I was born with, and I said it to my mother earlier. I scared her when I said, I'm not going to be here for long, and I almost died when I was 13. So, she said to me, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "Mommy, whatever I'm doing, I have to just get it done." And the beautiful thing is, I've built different things which I've been fortunate enough to hand over to other persons. So with the Women Entrepreneurs Network and the work in gender, we now have so many other women who have joined me that I can now start stepping back and pushing those women forward. Where it concerns agriculture, because I'm now moving back more into Manchester, which is where I'm from, I I've always wanted a lot for my parish. And I've visited lots of different countries and seen opportunities which I am now ready to implement in Manchester. Where it concerns education, digitization is now the thing, it's here. And when I look across Manchester, I see quite a few students, children that are not going to school. Tablets have not reached them as yet, or internet connectivity has not reached them as yet. And there's still work to be done.
I will ask you the next question that I was going to ask you then, because it
Oh
sounds
my
like you're struggling.
God.
Sound like you're struggling with it. My follow-up question to that would have been, so how do you maintain balance, work-life balance as a woman entrepreneur, and the unique challenges? But I'm not going to ask you that.
So the short answer to that is yes, you should have balance. I'm not
Sure.
sure if I have any.
Mm.
I shy away from the question a lot, because boy, Kira,
You just go hard.
yeah.
You just go
And
hard.
there are times, like Catherine said to me this morning, you need to go to the doctor and get checked. Are you okay? I said, yeah, man, I'm fine. But schedule those things in between, of taking care of yourself. I do have my self-care Sunday. When I periodically will just say, listen, no phone calls, no nothing. I will just stay home and cook and take care of my family, and that's it. But outside of that, yeah, the balancing kind of hard. I
Are you able?
believe that balance comes and goes. You cannot have balance and maintain it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's what I believe.
Yeah, I would agree. There's this book I read called Off Balance on Purpose. I don't remember the author right now, but it was basically about that. You have to just know that I think the author at some point used the analogy of a juggler, and whatever it is, whatever objects are being tossed in the air, no, they only one or two of those items are ever in the hand of
Yeah.
the juggler. The rest are literally up in the air. They're up in the air, and it's about building a rhythm that allows you to catch what needs to be caught in the time that it's going to need to be caught. So,
And there are times when you have to let some things fall to the ground, and then you learn from what is scattered on the ground. Then you say, okay, I have a better product. Start again, and then you start the cycle of tossing again.
Exactly, exactly. Great point. All right, so I'm going to throw the question to you from Alexandra Brown, who I don't know if you're going to be able to answer, but I'll ask you as an opinion thing still. Um, Person mentioned that in India, some people have a cow per household, and would you suggest that we have a goat per household then, or maybe ducks?
I'm going to answer it this way. There are lots of lessons I've taken from India. And let me answer what she asked first. One, I believe that in every household, you can actually move from just having a pet to actually having raising some other animal that supplements income. I personally believe that. If it's not a goat, if it's not rabbits, it can be crops, produce. Yeah. What we need to do is to look to see where the marketplace is going, where the taste and the palate of our country is going, and then use that to determine, okay, so people are not eating beef as much. Maybe they are going to be interested in duck meat and goat meat or whatever it is, sheep, lamb. We've seen,
Is
yes,
this for economic purposes or food security purposes?
first food security.
Okay.
First food security. I believe that you produce for yourself first, and then you sell the excess. Yeah. So if it is ducks, I remember as a child, there was a lady down the road from where I live that had turkey. And at Christmas, sometimes my mother would actually buy one and prepare it. Mind you, everybody loved the turkey leg because it was 2 or 3 times the leg of a regular chicken leg. But that is something that we can actually look at. I believe the mindset of people is shifting back to how we were coming from a more agrarian society or African tradition, that we must grow what we eat. And if I'm not mistaken, Roger Clark was the first one who came up with that. The ministry has continued that concept of eating what we grow and growing what we eat. And it's something that we do need to teach all of our children. So whether you live in Kingston or you're in the country, grow something.
Whether you own or you rent,
Exactly.
it's true.
Grow
You can start some kind of gardening, some home garden. I had another question for you. This person, Alexandra, is also asking if you think we should have more mobile markets, like farmers going around and selling to the communities. I would say yes.
I would say yes, just like how we can have food trucks. Look at
Yes.
with them in the US and in New York, but we
Mm.
have to develop the industry to support them.
It
And
was so convenient. I'm sorry, Ethne, but it was so convenient during COVID when we had these community markets, these town markets where the Ministry of Agriculture orchestrated in many instances the farmers markets there. That's what they call them, the farmers markets. It's so convenient to have the food come to you in your community, and it's fresh and it's available and you have options and that kind of thing. So yeah, I would definitely. I wonder why we had to have COVID for that to happen. I think it should continue.
well, let me tell you, I believe there's a natural order to life, and I believe that things happen in cycles, and some things that we're seeing now we had before.
Okay.
We lost our roots, we lost our center, we lost our focus, and as a result, we paid attention to some things. And I think the earth is trying to teach us a lesson as human beings. I firmly, strongly believe that. I'm very grounded in that. I believe in the Rastaman who said to me when I was walking one day in Papine as a 20-year-old going to university, he said, Sister, make sure you always find your center. And I think what is going on with COVID is helping us to recenter, is helping us to realign. And we had a starting point, and we've lost it. We have to get it back, right? So the starting point for me is yes to agriculture, one. Two, yes to dignity, and yes to respecting ourselves and respecting everything around us, the animals, respecting our environment. How we treat our environment. Right now, the environment is revolting,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And teaching us
Absolutely.
a lesson. So yes, I believe that we can start there and we can go back to our roots, go back to our basics. Um, And we also need to put a lid on crime, because if we were able to manage crime, the farmers would not have such a hard time. They wouldn't have such a hard time. there's a point that Alexandra raised that I want to go back to. India has this concept, no, it was Bangladesh, the Grameen Bank model. And I'm seeing where that model is being adjusted. We did something similar within Wensi, creating some kind of fund that we can use to help our businesses grow. But going even further, I believe we need community banking, we need community markets, which means that we need to go back to our community. We need to go back to our community.
And as you mentioned, the Grameen Bank, there is a quote from it's Mohammed Yunus, that's the pronunciation of his name, right? He's Nobel Peace Prize winner, right? And that microfinance pioneer of the Grameen Bank. He said that all human beings are entrepreneurs. Um, when we were in caves, we were all self-employed and finding our food and feeding ourselves, and that's where human history began. But as civilization came, we suppressed it and we became labor, and because they stamped us as labor, and we forgot that we're entrepreneurs. What do you think of that
I
state?
believe wholeheartedly. And I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm going to reference a woman leader that has been causing me to pause recently. Mia Mottley of Barbados. I've been listening to her speeches, and her speeches go back to the center of who we are, yes, to community, and also, yes, to our culture. I saw what happened with the new chief of a compound, and I am waiting with bated breath to hear what he puts on the table in terms of developing the state of our compound. I believe that yes, we have to go back to our communities. Everything begins in our community. We used to have our neighborhood watches and getting our children together for Christmas, and you had the maypole dancing and you had different activities. That has died. We need to go back there. Yes, there's going to be the technology approach to all of this. So maybe you're going to be watching it on a screen. But for those who want face-to-face interaction, go back there. When the tourism sector collapsed last year with COVID, what did we do? We all started to go to the beaches ourselves and visit these local tourism. For years, McIntyre Pike in Mandeville, who talks about community tourism, she's been pushing this for years. And suddenly we're back there. So community is where we need to go back to, and that's our start. And agriculture is a big part of that community.
My final question, because that's all we have time for right now, is what is an entrepreneur as defined by Ethne?
Oh, an entrepreneur as defined by me. You said it, somebody who has an insatiable appetite for creating new things, looking at our environment and finding solutions to the problems in our environment. Not necessarily owning every idea that you come up with, be willing to give some away, sell some to other persons, um, but solving problems of our time and solving problems of our community.
Lovely answer. I love that answer. Thank you so much, Ethne. And Glow Care, big up yourself. Glow Care has some tomatoes and peas coming in, and she's very excited about that. Whoopee. That's from Instagram. All right. It was a very solid and compact conversation that we just had in this last 50 odd minutes or so. It was good food for thought in this lunchtime hour. We touched on quite a bit. We appreciate the journey that you have undertaken thus far, and the leadership that you have shown, the support that you have been lending to the women in our nation, in our communities, in the entrepreneurial community, and also the whole heap of work, the whole heap of work that you have been doing in the ecosystem. It is felt. I have seen it and witnessed it myself. You mentioned from our conversation about agriculture today that there are still a lot of problems that are there to be solved, some that you are looking to solve yourself. You've identified a few of them that you could potentially go down the road on solving, and that you're open to working with others to do this. Um, we see the need for agriculture and agribusinesses in Jamaica and globally because food security and the economic impact that it can have is a strong, strong point, especially now in the stage of development that we're at. Uh, General things. I'm just kind of running off top of my head. What are some of the things that stood out for me in our conversation? The networking point was a strong one for me as well. About how not everybody is going to go out and form an association and create one and lead one like you have done, but it's certainly a good move to make to be a part of a collective of like-minded persons who will, as I said, iron sharpened iron. Yeah, will provide the kind of support and undergirding for resilience that is absolutely necessary in this journey of entrepreneurship because there are ups and downs. And the benefits of also just getting some free skills, free, free, free human resource contributions from the grouping and the variety and diversity of persons that are in there. Holy for other little gems, I'm sure were taken by the audience today. And if you happen to be here and you missed any part of it, you can go back to our YouTube channel, the JBDC YouTube channel, to view the entire conversation that we had today and get all of the gems and all of the points that were made by Ethne in the conversation today. I want to thank you all for coming out. If it was your first time, thanks for joining us here on the Entrepreneur's Journey this Friday afternoon. And know that we have this feature just about every week at the same time, Friday afternoons, 12 to 1. And it's streamed online here if you're on Facebook or Instagram, and it's also on YouTube for the archives now and later. Ethne, we thank you so much for your time and this conversation. We're wishing you all the best with your multiple endeavors. Looking forward to hearing about how they are going in the future as well. And oh yes, I'm reading the messages. They say someone's asking my name. My name is Kira Walters. I don't know if you're able to see that on the stream. But they have a little thing with my name underneath it. But I'm Kira Walters. I work here at JBDC. I'm assistant manager in the business advisory services unit. Yeah. And just, I look forward to having this lunchtime conversation every week. It's very, very a high point of my week on a Friday when we're looking to, end things. I hope you guys found it to be useful and worth your time as well. And if you haven't had lunch yet, have a good lunch, have a good weekend, and see you again next week, same time, same place.
Same place. Thanks, Kira.
You're welcome, Ethne. Hey, Kim. Shout out, Kim. Everybody's here.